Ever since you can remember, you felt something in your chest telling you to move, to love, to speak, to try. Day after day, you pretend you don't hear it calling, or maybe you dismiss it as silliness or worse. But it's there, ready for you, and it will wait for you as long as you need. My name is Johnny G, and I invite you to join me on a journey of awakening as we dare to embrace our light. This is Refractive. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Refractive. I'm your host, Johnny G. Corene Summers is the founder of Artisan Pharmacy. That's pharmacy with an F. She's a Reiki Master teacher, energy healer. She's a business coach for conscious entrepreneurs. She's a meditation and mindfulness coach. She's a corporate wellness specialist and a yoga instructor too. She studied throughout the US, India, Tibet, Nepal, Spain, and Australia. You can reach out to Corene with any questions at hello@artisanpharmacy.com. And again, that's pharmacy with an F, not a PH. Welcome, Corene. It's so nice to have you with us.
Thank you for that introduction, and thank you for having me.
Yes.
People always get that wrong with even if I say pharmacy, it's like a farm, F-A-R-M-A-C-Y. People will still spell it the other way. But that's the whole idea that we have so much in nature that we can access to use for our own health and well-being, to release stress and anxiety, and improve or raise our frequency, raise our vibration. And so it's kind of a play on words there. I have a shop that has all kinds of tools and products that you can use to, improve, live a toxin-free life and benefit from all of the beauty that nature has given us.
That's excellent. I have to say, one of my closest friends from childhood, her name is Corene, and it's spelled very similarly to your name. So if I pronounce your name Corene, please know that it's just falling into these old habits. But I do want to make sure and show you the respect of calling you Corene as your name. But thank you for your patience with that.
Oh, no worries at all. Most people call me Corene, so it doesn't bother me one bit, but the Corene is from my two grandmothers, Cora and Irene. So my mom put them together. So nobody else is actually named that. So I think your mind, just like pharmacy and pharmacy, your mind automatically wants to do what you know. So I don't, definitely no hard feelings here.
Absolutely. Where are you broadcasting from today?
Today I'm in Pittsburgh, PA. So I've lived all over. I spent time in Washington, D.C., Chicago, Illinois, and Seattle. Mm-hmm. And then I've been splitting my time between Pittsburgh and New York City since the pandemic. I'm closer to family and just wanted to kind of transition back to be closer to where my family was primarily.
You're just like Mr. Rogers, hopping back and forth from Pittsburgh to NYC, back and forth every week.
Keeping life fun.
I was surprised by how beautiful Pittsburgh was the first time I went there. I expected.
Been here?
What's that?
You've been here?
Yeah. Well, I lived in Philadelphia for 4 years. And so I did have the opportunity to go out to Pittsburgh and visit. And I expected it. When you hear about the Rust Belt, and I don't know, I just expected it to look a little bit run down. But when I got there, I was blown away with all the beautiful yellow bridges and, the sleek skyscrapers, and there's so much charm. And I said, wow, I really judged a book by its cover without even having been there. And so, you certainly do live in a beautiful place.
That's great that you've been here. I agree. The bridges are beautiful, and it has such a pretty skyline with the rivers and everything. The skyline and then the rivers, it's really beautiful for especially a small city.
Yeah. So today we're talking about Reiki, and this is something that I know is near and dear to your heart. And I just have a feeling that this is something, it's a concept that will be useful for the listeners today. And I know that you've dedicated a lot of time and energy to, to supporting people through Reiki healing. And so thank you for being willing to come on and share that knowledge, share that experience, and help us all become a little more comfortable with Reiki. So why don't we start by you giving us just a high-level overview of what it is, and we can dig deeper as we go on.
Wonderful. Yes, it's a great place to start. And I have done a lot of things. I have a lot of titles and certifications, but my primary modality is Reiki and the chakras. So different types of energetic hygiene practices, I like to call them. But we'll start with my favorite and the most basic description, which is from one of my best friends and another coach. His name's Alex Terranova. And he said, Reiki is kind of like that feeling you get when a little puppy runs up to you and jumps up to you and starts to lick your face. You just like, you can't help but smile. Like you feel really happy. You like instantly feel good. And I just love that because it was so true when he said it. I just like laughed out loud. I was like, man, you're totally right. It is like that feeling, or anything, that makes you feel warm and fuzzy inside. It's usually how you
Yeah.
feel after a Reiki session, or anytime you're using that practice. But more officially, it's often referred to as a stress reduction and deep relaxation technique. So that's kind of the main, more formal description that's used. But I also think of it more as, I mentioned energetic hygiene.
Yeah.
So a way, just like we brush our teeth, or, take care of our physical body and our mental body, maybe through, education and meditation and things like that. There's all these different techniques for different layers to our body. And these ancient practices also recognize our energetic body. It comes from the koshas. You maybe have heard of that. Ayurveda, they talk a lot about these energy as well. So does Chinese medicine.
Mhm.
So does what else talks a lot about that type of energy? Reiki, Chinese medicine. I'm missing what? The chakras. But it's essentially being able to release things that you are stressed about, or releasing physical tension. It's recognizing where you need to heal, where you need to release and let go of things. And
Mhm.
then also opening the door for greater health and well-being, greater positivity. But it's something that, if we're doing it all the time, energetically, we feel better. We feel generally those things that people crave or want in life. We feel more positive, or more relaxed and at ease, and we stay more in balance. So there's
Mhm.
less extremes on
Yeah.
the sides. It creates more of like a state of flow as you're using these tools regularly.
That's awesome. And, I have to confess that I know so little about Reiki. And as a part of my own spiritual path, I do a lot of energy work through visualizations and, um, uh, yeah, I mean, visualizations is the way is the way to talk about it. I imagine different frequencies and colors and wavelengths and different energies. And one of the biggest steps forward for me in this was when I was reading Eckhart Tolle's The Power of Now, uh, in my first months of spiritual seeking. And he talked about how if you just concentrate on your hand, you'll eventually start to feel the life force in your hand. You'll just feel the tingling. And once I experienced that and I was able to um, guide the sensation around my body to different parts of my body, that opened the door for me in my meditations and in my quiet practices to start to direct the flow of my energy, according to whatever my intuition told me to do, not having any training, not having any background information on it. And then as I moved into working with guided meditations, obviously um, there's a lot of working with your energy flow in some guided meditation. So that was the next step for me. But this, in understanding what makes a particular modality of energy work, Reiki, all of this is something that I'm not an expert in. So what makes Reiki versus other type of energy work?
I love also that you were like, I know nothing about Reiki. And then what you just described to me, you're essentially already a Reiki level 1 practitioner, because you
Great.
are like that knowledge and idea of activating your life force energy and then being able to send it to yourself around your body. That's essentially what we learn in Reiki level 1. And then we move on to learn how to also use it on friends and family, on pets. When you become a Reiki master, you can also do it distantly and then certify other Reiki teachers and practitioners. So that's something that I do. I have a Reiki practitioner certification coming up here pretty soon, which I'm really excited about. But yeah, you're already doing it. You're turning on and
Good.
activating your life force energy in the hands. So interestingly enough, they're considered an extension of the heart and the heart chakra, or that energy center. So we're essentially using the hands as a way to activate and then guide and direct the energy. But you never actually put your hands on somebody, and with yourself as well, you're kind of directing the energy, and it's through, you mentioned visualization. Visualization is also, and meditation are another really big part of that. There's also an invocation, so some specific language and a way of setting up each session that's used that you learn when you become a practitioner and a master. But that's exactly what we're doing. So I forget what the original question is. I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah. So what distinguishes Reiki from, let's say, other energy modalities? I imagine that there are many, many, many different ways of working with energy, and Reiki is just one. So could you help clarify a little bit on that?
Yeah, absolutely. And the other one I missed earlier was shamanism. So that's another
Okay.
using energy, and this idea also of intention. So when you're doing any of these types of practices, there's generally an intention for something to be healed, or an intention for something to come to the surface and be released. And so that's how we have such a huge impact in it. There's usually an intention there, and then each modality is using different tools or techniques. So for instance, in something like shamanism, we use drums and different instruments, feathers. There's also herbs like rapé and combo and different things, ayahuasca, different plant medicines that might be used. And then in something, there's something different is going to be used in Chinese medicine. That's a lot of herbs, but it also, they're really connected to the idea of chi and universal life force energy. So again, that's another type of energy healing. And then the chakras, they also use different tools. So it's a lot of the same ideas and principles, and idea that we have power and we do have the ability. We can't control everything, but there's a lot that we can control through our thoughts, through setting intentions, and through tapping into those deeper layers of our human bodies. The idea that we have a spirit and a soul and an energy layer, that there's an energetic function to us, and we're not just flesh, physical form. There's a lot more than that. So
it really resonated with me when I first started to read writings on how illness is a physical manifestation of an energy blockage or an energy issue. And, there are lots of divergent ideas on that. And, there's a school of thought that, cancer is often related to unprocessed anger, or fear, or clenching and things like that. So I would assume that when it comes to Reiki, one of the goals is to process these, let's say, this residue that emotions leave with us, so that is that what you mean when you talk about energy hygiene?
yeah, because it doesn't, specifically cure your disease, but it creates the environment that healing can occur.
Yeah.
So I that idea shocked me too. I had Lyme disease since 2010. I've now put almost all of my symptoms into remission. But
Yeah.
it was really a difficult part of my awakening when I realized that I had actually manifested it through exactly what you just said, some fear, anger, trauma that I experienced through multiple unfortunate events that I dealt with very young in my life that left me in a bad place. And That journey was part of what brought me here and to being a Reiki master. I learned all this stuff because it was helping me and I wasn't getting the answers I needed from Western medicine.
Yes.
And as soon as I started to implement all of these practices, my healing began. It's taken me a long time, because I was really sick, but it has absolutely changed my life. And it is an absolute joy and honor, that I'm able to give these tools to others. I've seen so much transformation and growth, and the gift of peace too, and realizing that there is something you can do. I think that's hard when you're dealing with something that's an autoimmune related or cancer. I mean, so many diseases, we don't have answers, and it can feel frustrating to be told that there's no other door to open, or that you just have to keep basically doing the same thing and you're going to be sick forever, or there's always a risk of something else happening. So I felt really empowered by this knowledge, and that it gave me motivation again, and really helped empower me to continue down my path and to keep trying and seeking better and better and better and better. And it's been really cool experience.
It's hard to flat out negate the power of energetics in physical healing. I mean, you hear all the time that doctors, one of the things that makes such a big difference in the recovery of patients is if the patient believes it's possible to recover, right? If the patient has that attitude of optimism and is willing to work with the treatments and believing the impact of the treatments. And you hear that all the time. Like, this is not some crazy woo-woo thing. Like, this is literally, doctors will tell you, my patients who are on board with the treatment and who believe in the potential of the treatment do better than the patients who are hopeless. And so, I mean, how else can you explain it? But it's a matter of managing your energy in a way to in a way that benefits you.
Oh, absolutely. There are actually a lot of hospitals. I don't know the exact number. I know at one point a couple of years ago, it was like hundreds, but there are quite a few hospitals that use Reiki. They have Reiki practitioners come into the hospital and actually do it right there at the hospital with the patients if it's something that the patient wants. And the more knowledge we have about these things, the more acceptance there is, the more inclusion of them there is. And for a really long time, there has been this separation between Western and Eastern medicine. They work most beautifully together, right? When we have, that's what I envision for our future, that we're able to use both. There are definitely things that energetic healing, Reiki or setting an intention or using a drum, like, isn't going to heal. You might need surgery. You might need something really serious, right? But it's understanding that we're not just physical bodies. And I think that mind, body, spirit kind of, cohesion, and when we create this harmony, and we understand that we have these other layers, that's why that allows everything else you're doing to work and creates that environment for growth and progress in whatever else you're doing, because you're recognizing, oh yeah, I'm all these pieces, I'm all these parts. There are other things that I need to consider. I'm not just one faceted. As humans, I think we try to almost pigeonhole ourselves, or try to be like everybody else. And what I love about these things is that these practices recognize we are also energy. It's okay to have emotion. You're going to have emotion flow through you. You have to let it flow. The more you resist, the more blockage, the more struggle you're creating for yourself in different areas of your life. So accept yourself for who you are and where you are, and love yourself for that. And it's a beautiful philosophy.
It is, because, what's the difference between a living body and a dead body? You know what I mean? Like what is the difference between the body that starts to decay and fall apart and the body that is living and thriving? It's that there is this energy flowing through it, right? There is this animating energy that exists, that interacts with the physical aspects of the body, and through this intelligent design, or whatever you want to call it, the body does these magical things, right? And so I think it's short-sighted to look at to dismiss energetics as an important part of healthy physical living. It just makes a lot of sense to me. I
Have you
wonder, go ahead, please.
have you ever taken a Reiki session yourself?
So I had a spiritual coach early on my path, and she did quite a bit of energy work sessions with me. And she didn't call it Reiki. She just called it energy sessions, where she would, it was remote, and she would spend time going through blockages, densities in my energy field, and things like that. So I was so new to this spiritual path, I didn't quite know what to make of it, but I felt mostly open-minded toward it. I trusted her. I trusted her lifetime of focus on this, and I trusted her breadth of knowledge on metaphysics and spirituality. And so even though I didn't understand what was happening, I surrendered myself to it. And I definitely felt I could just feel sensations moving throughout my body during them. So I guess that's the best answer I could give you. It sounds like there was some Reiki modality going on in that.
Yeah, it absolutely does. And it can be done distantly. I'm a Reiki master, so I can do my sessions, one-on-one sessions, or my Reiki certification programs with people from my computer, which is great, especially since COVID happened.
Yes.
I love being with people in real life, and it's something I miss so much. Especially if you're doing something like that and something hard comes up, it's nice to be able to hug somebody, or,
Yeah.
create a layer of your connection in the physical realm. But in these COVID days, it's so wonderful that we can do it remotely. And I was a little, when I went fully like that, I've got to admit, I was a little bit like worried. I'm like, is it going to be the same? Are people going to
Yes.
have the same impact? Are they going to have the same, level of success with this? And it has been the same. We maybe even stronger for some reason. I don't know what it is, but it's created some really, really beautiful practices. And I'm sorry, I just totally
Yeah.
lost my train of thought.
Of course.
Um,
He'll come back.
yeah. Where was I going to go with that one?
Would you tell us kind of what happens during a Reiki energy session?
Yeah, and you'll have to excuse my cat here.
Oh,
It
cats
seems
are
like
always
anytime I'm
welcome.
doing a Reiki session or even talking about Reiki, I swear I like start to feel the energy in my cats. I have two of them, and they love it. They'll come and sit on my
Yes.
lap, or they always want to be close by.
Animals know
Um,
what's up.
so what happens in a Reiki session? When we're any kind of Reiki session, whether we're in person or doing it distantly, at first we're going to talk a little bit, especially if you're new, get to know each other a little bit, and talk about anything specific that you may want to address. So if there's something physically going on or mentally, emotionally going on that you want to be addressed, I invite you to let me know so that then I can spend, time directing, the energy towards that area. Or I can just do it intuitively if you don't have something specific and you're using it for more relaxation, or if you're not comfortable sharing. And it's amazing, the intuitive, it works every time.
Yeah.
Even when I started and I was doubting myself, and I would just go with my gut, and you're like, you have to risk it, gotta get to know if this is working. And you
Yeah.
would make your guess, and it was always spot on. So that always impresses me as well about this energy and the way it works. So we might talk a little bit about that. And then the student is going to just get comfortable, relax, get under a blanket. You can be in bed. Usually I invite you to lie down. It's best if you're lying down, and just letting the body completely relax, letting the nervous system relax, play some gentle music, close your eyes. And it's like a meditation in that way. Or yoga nidra, if anyone's ever done a yoga nidra meditation, it's also an ancient practice or meditation for sleep, for deep sleep. And so, yeah, you let go, relax, and let the energy flow. And on my end, I do, like I said, a little invocation, and there are certain things that I say to kind of get it started, certain things that I focus my attention on and visualize, and then we begin. and the session might last, you could do 30 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour. An hour is usually the max.
Yeah.
And you have your experience, and then afterwards where we talk a little bit, you share anything and ask any questions you might have. And yeah, that's about it. It's pretty simple. It's very similar to a meditation, but I think the impact in how you feel is different. There's more sensory, like
Yes.
tingling or warmth. You might have visualizations and see things. Some people feel like they go almost into a trance-like state,
Okay.
where they completely almost fall asleep, or they go somewhere else and they feel like they went somewhere else and to another dimension and came back. So the experiences can be very different. You might have emotion, you might cry. But that's just another way of the body releasing.
Yeah. So other than just for energetic health, right? For maintaining healthy energy, what are some reasons that someone would seek out Reiki energy work?
Oh, if you just want to feel more relaxed or
Mhm.
at ease,
Mhm.
if you want to raise your frequency, raise your vibration, just feel better,
Mhm.
have more energy, feel more joyful,
Yeah.
all of those things. I think it also works with, I believe a lot in that we attract things based on our energy. And I do a lot of work with visualization, as you
Yeah.
mentioned, and manifestation. And so, and intention setting, those are like all very related. And, as you improve your own health and well-being in all of these different areas, mind, body, physical, or spiritual, as we improve our energy and that just means health, right? Like as we improve our health and we continue to feel better and better and better in all of those areas,
Yeah.
the ripple effect of change also occurs, and we begin to then attract more and more and more better and better things in all of those areas,
Yeah.
and continue to rise upward in that trajectory. So
Yeah.
I don't think there's a reason not to practice Reiki or not to do Reiki. I think everyone should do it, and that everyone
Yeah.
should be a level 1 and 2 practitioner, at least level 1,
Yeah.
just because it's such a powerful practice just for yourself.
Yeah.
And especially right now with everything going on in COVID, the world is so heavy. We
Yes.
all need a little more lightness. We all need
Mhm.
a little more love. And I see it as almost pure love vibration, pure love energy. You're channeling pure love when you're doing it, and when you're receiving it, that's often what you feel.
Yeah.
So who doesn't need that?
No, I almost see it as kind of like an energy version of a massage, right? You go and it's just a way to get relief from the tension and the stress and the pressure that we're in. And I see kind of the same impact almost for Reiki as you would get from a massage, where it's almost like a reinvigoration.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really good way of putting it. I like the term energetic massage, because
Yeah.
people do often, one of the misconceptions is that it's very similar to a massage and that there's physical contact happening. I think especially because a lot of the pictures, there's like hands hovering, but you
Right.
can't always tell. But it's definitely not a massage. And it's, the energy is also not your own. So I think that's another common misconception, that the energy is coming from the practitioner. But one of the things I always say at the beginning is that I'm not giving that person any of my energy. I'm not taking on any of theirs. There's a boundary there. I actually feel like that's inappropriate when people try to commingle that.
Hmm.
It's tapping into something that's bigger, and something that's bigger and stronger than all of us. It's tapping into
Hmm.
that, universal life force energy, or other, chi, etc.
Hmm. Now, you mentioned that your personal difficulties of suffering through Lyme disease, and I know that there was a period of misdiagnosis in your past that really created a lot of pain and frustration for you, and that this was foundational to arriving where you are today. I wonder, how do you see the progression of that path, and why do you think that suffering that you went through, that challenge, brought you into becoming a Reiki master and all the other roles that you play to help people on their spiritual journey?
think for me, it was meant to happen. It was my destiny. It was part of what, I would have never ended up here if it weren't for what I went through. I wouldn't have
Yeah.
been seeking so many other answers. I did travel to India, Nepal, and Tibet and started studying these things before I knew I was so sick. In 2010 was when I was bit by the tick and was first diagnosed. I had the bullseye rash and everything. And so they put me on some antibiotics and then told me I should be fine. I was in my, mid-20s, early 20s, and was like, okay, and just went on with my life.
Yeah.
And shortly after that was when I took this big trip and had deepened my studying in yoga and meditation. I started studying Ayurveda, which I was introduced to while I was there. I spent time in Tibet and Indian monasteries and just enriching my spiritual life through so much ancient wisdom that I had never heard of before. And there was something about it that just resonated with me. I couldn't deny the way I felt in this knowing of, this is truth. And I felt it in my body. And, there was just, it completely shifted me. So that was kind of the starting point. And then after that, when I came back to the United States, it was at that time I had moved out to Seattle. And that was about when I started to find myself really, really sick in 2012. I had random things happening and then just kept getting worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. I went through a lot of misdiagnosis, and then it took all the way until 2018 for them to figure out that I still had Lyme disease from 2010. And so during that time, nobody knew what was wrong with me. I had misdiagnosis after misdiagnosis, nothing was helping. And so I was really frustrated and started to seek other answers. And I knew, I had started planting those seeds already with the yoga, meditation, and Ayurveda. And I just went right down the rabbit hole of that. Like
hold your nose and jump. Yeah,
absolutely. I dove into all of the modalities and all of the tools, and now I've kind of streamlined. I brought it all in, and that's one of the things I like about the work that I do, because I've studied so many different things that I can kind of bring them together and realize where there are synchronicities and give people tools to help them where they are, because we're all different too. We all need different things. And so that's what's beautiful about this. There's different things that might work for different people. And, you have to ultimately, no matter where you are on your journey, whether you're healing from something or not, find what works for you.
Yeah. Yeah. So when it comes to becoming a Reiki master, what is the progression along the path of learning Reiki, understanding it, starting to practice it, and then qualifying to become a teacher or whatever the path is?
Yes. So you start with Reiki level 1, which is practicing on yourself. And then you move on to practicing and being able to practice on your friends and family, and then being able to take clients and use it on your pets as well. So in the first one, you can practice on yourself, close friends and family, more casually. But then when you get your second level practitioner, you can also practice on clients and, take money and add it to, modalities that you may offer an existing business. Or you can also use it in a lot of other practices. I think for anyone that wants to bring more positivity and light to anything that you do.
Yeah.
If you're a leader in a business, it's going to improve communication and your ability to create positive environments in the workforce.
Yeah.
If you're a teacher, it's going to help you with also creating that positive, calm environment in school or with your students. If you're a cook, they say if you're a cook, you can actually infuse the energy in your food. And it's funny, I've heard rumors and myths about restaurant owner, restaurants that they have a Reiki chef and it's like always, they're always sold out. They're just always sold out.
Yes.
So Reiki could be for anyone, especially in those first 2 levels. You could use it for anything. But to become a master, you're a little more invested. In the first 2, you can do each one in a day. Reiki level 1 is 1 day. Reiki level 2 is another full day. And then there's a lot of reading material and other things. And then you have to practice for 6 months at minimum before you can become a master with clients.
Now,
the master is much more intense. It's it's 3 days of full sun up to sundown training, and it's pretty exhausting. Actually, it's a lot of work, a lot of energy a lot of mental energy and your own healing that's happening as
Yeah.
well when you're doing it. But
I imagine when you take on that title of Reiki Master, I mean, you have a certain commitment and obligation to the people that are hiring you, to, I don't know, I imagine that there must be, what am I even asking? I guess, how do you manage the quality of the work that you do with people? How does someone make sure that they are truly being a high quality practitioner of Reiki for their clients? How do you manage your own energetic hygiene and your own vibration so that you are meeting this commitment to quality for your clients?
Great question. And it's basically minding my own energy. If I need to be a clean portal and vessel to be able to tap into it and feel like I'm doing my best and to deliver my best. So it's really important for me to do all the things that I do every day and every week. I have a lot of rituals, so you probably don't want me to name them all, because I have so many teas and herbs and different things that I use.
Yeah.
Most of them you can get on my website though,
Mhm.
artisanpharmacy.com, and then my shop, or you could go directly to the shop.artisanpharmacy.com. And a
Mhm.
lot of what I use is there. Everything
Mhm.
from, dry brushing tools to keep my lymphatic system healthy, to jade rollers to keep my skin healthy, to all those herbs and nutrients and vitamins and things that I take to keep my physical body healthy and to keep my chronic Lyme symptoms in remission.
Yeah.
And then, oils and sprays and sages and all of that good stuff. I also use a lot of Ayurvedic practices and shamanic practices that
Mhm.
those ones might
Mhm.
be a little more unfamiliar to people. So I'll mention them. And if anyone wants to know more, please email me. You can do your own research, but if you will email me, I'll also, shoot some things your way. And those are things like nausea oil. So it's oil drops that you put in your nose, and that's for this entire area, the third
Mhm.
eye, also opening the pineal gland or activating your third eye energy, which you may or may not be familiar with. And different massage oils as well. And then some shamanic tools like rapé, which is, are you familiar with that?
No, tell me about it.
It's an ancient, it uses tobacco, but like pure tobacco and some other herbs, and it's mixed by different shamanic tribes, and then you can use it yourself, and it's also something that goes up your nose. It's one of
Mhm.
the ways that herbs and different what's the word I want to use? If you're using either oils or herbs, I know it's something that a lot of Westerners are put kind of
Mhm.
maybe you would shy away from or be unfamiliar with, because we don't use a lot of things in our nose.
Yeah.
That's usually drugs. You're right. Most
Yeah,
people
speak for
associate it.
yourself, Corene.
Most people associate it. Most people associate it with something negative, but it's actually one of the ways that things can permeate the blood-brain barrier and
Mhm.
get into our system the fastest. And
Mhm.
so it's interesting that a lot of ancient practices use those kinds of tools. So I do all kinds of stuff, and then obviously meditation and yoga and self Reiki. I do Reiki on
Yeah.
myself as well.
Mhm.
Getting outside though, that's like the simplest way you can improve your energy and
Yeah.
shift into a more positive state. So that's a lot of things.
Yeah. Can you recommend a couple of ways that people can manage their own energy? You talked about going outside, getting in the sun for a little bit of time. What are some other ways? For me, I know that there's certain TV that I can't watch. There's certain types of TV programs that really stick to me like a scum, and they affect my energy. And um, so that's one way that I try to manage my energy is by controlling what I'm exposed to as far as entertainment. What are some other practices that you would recommend to listeners?
I'm actually so glad that you brought that up, because it's really important in a world full of overstimulus, and we're surrounded by technology, and we can't always control that, right? Or we can, but we have to make the decision. Okay, yes, what do I want in my energy field? What do I actually want to expose myself to? We can't control that technology exists, and we're probably gonna have to be on social media and be someone involved, and we're gonna go on the internet and we're gonna see some news, but control the things that you can. Make sure you're following positive people that uplift you and make you feel good
Yes.
in your
Yes.
newsfeed. Change your homepage so you're not surrounded by negative news all the time, and limit the time that you allow yourself to be exposed to what's going on in the world and media that might impact you. Don't do it before bed. Do it
Yeah.
a different time of the day and limit it. Um, Things even like blocking notifications that might come in that might be disruptive. I
Mm-hmm.
think the biggest thing is noticing in yourself what is making me feel good,
Yes.
what is making me feel bad.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the basic. What makes me feel good? What makes me feel bad? Something makes you feel bad, try to get that out of your life.
Yeah.
Something that makes you feel good, try to include more of it,
Mm-hmm.
the best you can.
Yeah. For me, I've gone through a series of changing my news providers. From in the past, I was exposed to so much drama in the headlines, and it, like you said, it just feels gross. It feels gross. It does not feel good. And so I found that and I can only speak for me. I'm not, but for me, I found that when I was reading the headlines on my CNN app, that there was just a lot of emotional words being used. And so I started to do some research. And from CNN, I moved to NPR, which had a slightly softer tone to the headlines, because I don't necessarily read news articles. I just scroll through the headlines to know what's happening around the world. But even the headlines were too much for me on the CNN app. And then, but I found that NPR also, I found myself less and less satisfied with it. And I eventually landed at Reuters.
Oh man,
So I
what
use
a journey.
Reuters. Yes. I mean, like snore, 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 the most boring news source in the world, Reuters. But that's the point. The point is that I want to know I want to know what's happening, but I don't want to be emotionally manipulated for clicks and things. And so that has also, in addition to TV, been an important part. And I love that you mentioned managing your news intake, because it's a machine.
It absolutely is. And fear is what sells. So it's important to remember that, since advertisers pay the news sources. So
Yeah.
I've actually balanced, I've also changed a lot of where, I stay pretty well rounded of just understanding what different demographics are saying. But I have switched a lot of my information to real people. Like I always verify things, or that's where I sort of balance out the tide, because you can usually believe, my mom always told me growing up, like 50% of what happened, what people say is probably the truth. And if
Yeah.
there's two things on the opposite, you're probably somewhere right in the middle.
Yes.
But to me, that's
Yes.
a great way of kind of taking a scope, and then deciding, okay, probably somewhere right around here, and hearing from
Yeah.
real people. I love that with social media, that's something we didn't have the ability to do before, to see
Mhm.
what's happening in the real world from real people all over the world.
Yes,
And so I always like to do that as well.
I agree. Wonderful.
But
So if listeners want to learn more about you, what you offer, they want to learn about Reiki and energy work, how can they better explore that?
I'll head over to my website, which is Artisan Pharmacy, spelled ARTISAN, and then pharmacy with an FARMACY
Mhm.
.com. And I have a lot of information there. In the menu bar at the top, there's you can just hit Reiki, and then there's a drop down with my Reiki one-on-one to book, and more information about the Reiki certification, which is
Yeah.
coming up. I have a 1 and 2 certification. coming up in the middle of March.
Mhm.
So I'm doing, information calls for that right now. If anybody's interested in learning more, let's hop on the phone for, one of those calls. And that'd be a great way to just ask any questions and get any more clarification. I also have a lot of information on my website,
Mhm.
the Reiki organization. Those are some other great ways to just start to deepen your knowledge about Reiki in particular.
Thank you so much for sharing this broad wealth of information that you have. I mean, you've dedicated so much time and effort to delivering this offering to the world, and I just appreciate you being so generous with that information.
Oh my gosh, thanks for having me and giving me an opportunity to share. I really believe, at this time in the world and everything that we're going through, that there's never been a more important time for this knowledge to get out there
Yes,
and for people to have more tools to take their power back and to spread peace and love,
that's
right?
right.
We spreading peace and love to others is so important right now, and we all have the power to be that beacon of light in our
Yes,
families and our friendships and our communities, in any relationship, in anything we speak, to others. We have that ability and that power to be the type of people that empower other people.
yes.
And we need more of that. We need a lot more of that right now to start to shift this tide. And I know that we will, and I completely believe that we can, and that it will happen. But yeah, if it's ever something you've thought about or that resonated with you, start to dig deeper.
That's right. That's right. You're speaking my language now, Corene. I love it. So,
I know. I actually wish we could have started with that.
everyone,
Times
thank
of
you.
chaos, and never needed anything more than peace and power.
That's right.
And love.
Exactly. That's what our insides are guiding us to do. That's what our inner wisdom is asking us to do. That's, you mentioned earlier, if something feels bad, reduce its presence in your life. If something feels nourishing, increase its presence in your life. That's what it comes down to. Honor those signals we have to enrich our experience. That's right. Good.
Yeah. And we talk about all these. I gave you that list of like official tools that I use, just because I know people really like to hear those things. If there's something, people are always looking for different things that they can do. But honestly, some of the best things that we can do to improve our joy is the basics, like hugging someone you love, call them on the phone, get outside in nature, hug a tree. I hug a lot of trees. There's an instant change. They have studied the impact on our nervous system and our heart rate and our own electromagnetic field. When you put your hands on a tree, like, tune into the pulse in your hands and how it changes. There is a palpable difference. And I think anyone can feel that, or the wind on your face, the sun on your face. I know it's cold in a lot of the world right now, but those are laugh with your kids, play, forget about work for a little while, do your favorite thing. If that's running, eating a delicious meal, it doesn't matter what it is, laying in your bed, just doing nothing. The answer doesn't always have to be something like meditation or yoga or, a specific practice. Sometimes it's just enjoying your life and taking the time to allow yourself to do that.
That's powerful. That's powerful. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to this episode of Refractive. Remember that you can reach Corene at hello@artisanpharmacy.com. That's FARMACY. And if you have any questions for me, also don't hesitate to reach out. You can find my information in the show notes. As you go out in the world and you encounter people who might be struggling throughout their day, always take advantage of the opportunity to aim your light. Take care. You have been listening to Refractive Podcast, and this is Johnny G. If you've enjoyed today's episode, do me a favor, give it a share on social media, or if you're in the podcast app, give it a rating. If you're on YouTube, click like. It really does make a difference in the search results. I am a speaker, coach, and facilitator based in Washington, D.C., but I work in person and remotely with people who are ready to step with clarity into their most authentic life. If I can be of service, reach out to me, Johnny, JOHNNY, @refractivecoaching.com. Have an amazing day. Be good to each other. And always remember, aim your light.